Well, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, we've come from Spain. I'd like to think that we brought some sunshine with us. We are very lucky. I know usually when I tell people that we work in Spain, they go, "Oh, you're so lucky." Well, we really are. We can't complain. But we've come today to talk to you a little bit about our school and what we've been doing in Madrid. So I'm the head teacher. My name is Akyürek. I've been working in international schools for most of my career, and I'm head of King's College School La Moraleja, which is a 2.5 to age 14 school in northern Madrid. Our school is an independent school. It's a British international school. We run our British national curriculum, and all of our teachers are from the UK. Gemma is my head of art and ICT at the school. And as I said, we just want to talk to you a little bit about something that we feel very strongly about and something that has really surprised us in our affluent community. We believe, and we work for a group of schools, so we have 7 schools. One of our schools is in Panama. We have a school back here in the UK, 3 schools in Madrid, 1 in Alicante, Murcia, and a new school which is opening in Latvia. We really do believe in this transformative learning experience, and we believe in getting our pupils engaged, certainly with technology. We don't believe we can leave it to chance that they will just succeed, even though many of the pupils in our schools seem to have all the advantages. We do face some challenges in education. We face the challenges about this employability gap. You know, the difference between what the economy needs, we read about that in the press, what the economy needs and what the school system produces. Also the gaps between the kind of knowledge and skills and experiences that our pupils need when they leave school, the knowledge gap between that and actually what they get in school. An achievement gap, between cohorts of pupils, or the pupils who have really good teachers and the pupils who have teachers who maybe don't have some of those skills. And also the opportunity gap, the opportunity to succeed from children who have families who are from, let's say, and even in my school, where we have quite affluent parents, but many of our parents are just not present. They're not there. They're busy. The children are with nannies and people who don't even speak their first mother tongue or their language. So we identified that there were a number of gaps that we felt as a school group we needed to address. And this idea of the talent gap between the top performing pupils in our school with top performing students around the world. Well, that's all well and good, and that's kept our school group very busy, as you can imagine, strategically. However, Gemma and I, and in our particular school, were very, very concerned about our girls and computing. Now, you would expect that in a school like ours that our girls have got all the tech, they do, but they're not particularly interested in it. The gender gap that we have seen day to day, and also which is significant in the world now, is that, the prediction that in 2018, there'll be 1.4 million open jobs in the United States. And at the current rate of students graduating with a degree in computer science, only 61% of those openings will be filled. And only 29% of the applicants will be women. In 2005, women made up 24% of computer science students. By 2010, the figure had dropped to 19%. And according to higher education statistics, a 2012 report from Creative Skill Set found that only 29% of the active media industry in the UK is female. Majority hold positions in art and design and communications rather than in engineering or in science. Just 16% of Facebook's tech staff and 18% of Google's women, according to figures which were released last year. Yet 57% of Twitter users are female. So we saw that women are the greatest consumers of technology, yet they don't seem to be represented in industry. And we're a little bit concerned about that. We felt also, given some of these figures, that it was very important that we engaged our girls, or we tried to find out what our girls were thinking. So we've come from a kind of global to kind of now to our school. We looked at our school and we talked to the girls. We saw that 70% of our pupils who wanted to take IGCSE computing were boys, and only 30% were girls. So that was 3 out of 10. And that made us feel a little bit uncomfortable. Given that in 2013, 17% of females were represented in the tech industry.
Okay, so what is stopping females getting to the finishing line? There's lots of evidence from UCAS this year that suggests that the gender gap in the UK for the degree subjects has actually doubled in 8 years. So there's lots of females taking degrees. You can see by the statistics here, 66,000 more women than men are now taking degree courses, which is very, very big. They outnumber men 9-1, I think it is in nursing. There are also other subjects like English, history, other subjects like social sciences that they are dominating in. But for computer science, it's very much a male-dominated industry. 13,000 more males taking the computer science at degree. So they might do it at GCSE, they might do it at A-level, but when it gets to choosing their degree option, there are less females actually doing that. There was some research this year, I don't know whether anyone saw it, by the BBC, and it actually says women write better code, girls write better code. And it was investigation, I think it was in the US, and it looked at it was looking at how girls actually do the computing and write the code, and when females are not, if you do not know that it was the females that were doing it or reciting the code, it was more likely to be accepted. This is really interesting study, and it just was something that really highlighted to us that we needed to look into it a little bit more. But what does it matter? Why does it matter if girls are not being represented in this industry? What does it matter if products are being sold? Why do businesses care? You know, it doesn't matter. Things are being sold. Who cares who makes them? Well, Microsoft actually say that the employment problem has real-world implications. When you consider that there are the people building the technology we use to navigate and make sense of the world, how can you do this without over 50% of the population having the input there? So it is something to really think about. Diversity and success. Everybody knows in a successful business you need to have diversity to have success. Okay, so Microsoft again say they believe in order to build the most innovative technology solutions to solve the world's toughest problems, we need to ensure our research and development teams are diverse enough to anticipate and respond to the needs of our changing marketplace. Diversity is really important. This is a place where we tweet, we message, we like things, we engage things. You know, the digital literacy that we've heard about before, it's never been more evident. Okay, and half of those people are women. There is also some research that says that 34% you get higher gains if women are in leadership positions in the tech industry. So it's something to actually consider. When myself and Dawn were looking into this, I know there was another female here, I didn't catch her name, that was looking into engaging women. She spoke about role models. When I was at school, I didn't have any role models in ICT. Again, it was stereotypical. You saw the people that were doing it. They were all male-dominated. We didn't have any role models in school. And you can see here 3 very popular and famous women in the ICT industry. So we've got Sheryl Sandberg, who actually wrote a very interesting book about encouraging women to lean in, taking on that empowerment and actually identifying themselves in this industry and taking a chance there. I'll go back to, the Women Write Better code that I was speaking about before. The US researchers analysed nearly 1.4 million users of the open source program sharing service GitHub. They found that pull requests or suggested code changes were more likely to be accepted when women had actually written them. So there is identified there that there are females who can be successful in this. But lots of people campaigning about it. There's lots of things on the internet at the moment to try and get women into it. Another lady called Belinda Palmer, which John's going to speak about, did a really interesting TED talk about this herself and her experiences, and her Little Miss Geek campaign that she also spoke about.
Yeah, when we talk about this, it's a real risk, isn't it? Because you risk being seen as a sort of activist or something like that. But really, all we wanted to do was engage with the girls in our school and try to encourage them to get involved with computing. Because as you said, Yasemin, your Minecraft club, well, we have all kinds of clubs going on in our school with coding, and they're full of boys. So I would walk the corridors and, oh yeah, they're the boys, again and again and again. And where were the girls? Well, the girls were all in the bathrooms or sitting outside in the sun because it's sunny in Madrid. So what Belinda Palmer did was, I think she asked pupils to draw what IT people looked like. And actually, when we saw the results, we thought, well, let's ask our pupils what they think IT people looked like. I'm not sure if you can see this. This is the one that really, I hope we're going to get some laughs now, because this is such a serious subject. I hope that we can, this made me lighten up a little bit, because IT man is Bob, and Bob is always happy, smiley, and Bob's sitting there, and this is Carla, and Carla's got a problem with her computer. She's very sad, because she hates computers. This is what the children told me. She hates computers. And she knocks on his door, and Bob, he likes computers, he's got 2 children, he's got a wife, he's 47 years old. So this is what our kids actually think, the IT, and you might want to think and pinch yourself if that's you, but Carla, I think I've done a pretty good impression of Carla fairly well. But we thought that this was really interesting. And, we wondered if this was actually true. So we went to our group, because we do have a group of schools, and we do have quite a lot of IT people who work for us, and had a look at our IT people. These are our IT people. They wear blue T-shirts, they have ICT on their backs, and they're not called Bob, they're usually called Pedro or Fernando or whatever. But, and they do sit in offices, and when people knock on the door, they're usually looking really sad and angry, and usually Bob or Pedro or Fernando are always happy to help. But we did care about the role model. Actually, our group does have an ace female IT person. She's actually the boss, but we don't see her. So one of the first things we have to do when we go back to school next week is we have to take her. She's very, very busy. We're going to bring her back into school so that the children can see her as well.
We followed on some of the research. We wanted to look into science as well as the computing, and just to see if there's still evidence of females being lacked in that area as well. So we did some research into the European Centre for Medium Range Weather Forecast, and they said, we asked them the same questions: why so few women in STEM and disciplines? What do you think can be done about it? So they spoke about giving females a sense of belonging, mentoring, giving them visibility, giving them strong support and encouragement to be confident when confronted with males, which is really important. Coming here today is quite intimidating for me, because it's the first time I've spoken to this, and I said to Dawn, I wonder how many men are actually going to be at this conference, because it was interesting for me to, see how many females were going to be represented. So it's about giving them the role models, offering good support for a work-life balance as well. Longer parental leave, equal support for involvement in men, as well as women bringing up children, to educate them, equip them, and inspire them. So we did a lot of research, and then we needed to come up with our own manifesto for our school. We needed something that was going to work for us, something that we could help and inspire other schools to maybe do. So the first thing we needed to do was interview our pupils. That was really important, to get their perspective on computing and their ideas of this. we wanted to create a parent computing committee. I'm very lucky that I work in a very privileged school where I am now, and a lot of our parents have got very high-end jobs in this industry. So I said to Dawn, we've got all of these parents here, we need to get their expertise because they know more than I do, and they can really help give the context to the students for ICT in the wider world. So that's what we did. So we held our old coding festival. We got guest speakers from industry, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We've made links with our local community called Tech Talents, which allow pupils to learn outside the classroom and in. And we also aim to make our coding engaging. Excuse me for my double I on Raspberry Pi there, but we use Scratch, we use Kodu, we use Small Basics, Python, HTML, Raspberry Pis, Espresso coding from Discovery, and we're hoping to buy a 3D printer. So these are all the things that we started to do this year. So we asked our students, there was a group of students that were taking computer at IGCSE and students that were not. So when we asked them, why do you think there's such a massive gap in the industry between males and females? These were the responses that we got. Well, girls, they lack the confidence. Males are usually more interested in ICT and computing. It's more appealing to them. It's a dominated industry. Then this one that really got me was females prefer more artistic and creative work and colour. Because my background is design, technology and arts, ICT I've just learnt through on this role that I'm doing, this really struck with me and it was something that I could relate to straight away. So it was interesting to think about our pupils' perceptions with this. And then when I started to teach ICT, and then when I saw how females were reacting to the coding for the first time, it was really something that I felt myself, and talking about this feeling of anxiety, stress, excitement, which I think Dawn's going to speak about now, in our level of challenge and support.
Yes, I think we all know that. Oh, I've gone the wrong, that's the right one. I think we all know that the best, we learn best, we're in that zone of learning. So we're a little bit out of our comfort zone, but we're not in the anxiety zone. So we tried to work with the girls and the boys as well, but particularly the girls, to ensure that they had, they were in that maximum growth kind of quadrant. So they weren't feeling terribly, terribly anxious. We were supporting them with that, but that they were excited and that they were supported. I interviewed the girls and the boys, our year 9 pupils, interviewed them, talked to them, quite structured interviews, asked them some questions about, the ones who were choosing to take computing, why it was, and this is what they came up with. Parental support, we saw, was actually really important. If they had a mom or a dad who was interested in computing, a mom or a dad who had an iPad, who thought it was a good idea, thought the future is computing, then they were more likely to choose that as an option. They felt that all of them, the girls and the boys, felt it was very exciting. They felt that they were learning a language that would change the world, a new language. In fact, all of them used those kind of words. But they talked about the emotional roller coaster. That was mostly the girls who talked about, at the beginning, when they were introduced to code, how they felt. They felt quite anxious, quite worried, quite scared and frightened that people would find out they didn't know what was going on. But they all talked about this would be, the language of the future and how important it would be. So, as any sort of good head teacher, it was very important that we got to grips with what they were doing in their coding classes. And Gemma constantly told me, I'm only 2 steps ahead of them. I'm 2 lessons ahead of them. And actually, when Yasemin came and asked us to present on this, I actually didn't know how to do any coding whatsoever. So I engaged Erica, who's in year 7, to give me 2 days of coding. So I spent 2 days with Erica, and Erica's taught me how to code a little bit. But we'll talk about this at the very end, because that was quite a challenge.
So that one. So the emotional roller coaster that comes with it. So, like I say, my background is design, technology and art, so when this role came with ICT, I thought, it's fine, I've taught ICT before. Then when it changed to computer, I thought, this is completely different. Okay, this is not something that I'm familiar with. So I have gone through the roller coaster that the children have gone through. I can relate to them. Okay, the start off feeling, then you fail, you feel like you just want to throw your computer out the window and it's not working. Then you start to get it, you feel really confident, and then that can just slip away quite quickly. So it is an emotional roller coaster, but what I've realised is that they have to invest in it. They've got to have an emotional investment in trying it out, in trying to succeed. Many pupils I've taught have experienced this, and it is important to teach pupils how to be resilient and that failing is okay. I know that one of the talks was also about failure. In schools, we hide failure. We don't want to see failure written in the newspapers. It's all about success. So teaching students to fail is quite a difficult thing to do. And I think that it's been the most difficult thing for me to teach and to try and realise at what point do you intervene with a child that is coding? What point do you say, oh, you don't do it like that, or try this? That has been the most difficult thing for me, because you have to stand back and let them go through it. You have to let them leave the room frantic, frustrated, because they then come back and then start it again. So that, for me, has been the most difficult thing to do teaching this subject. So every student we know has the potential. It's giving them the opportunity, support to have the motivation to do it. This is really important, okay? Because if they haven't got that support in the school, they will just give up. It's about getting the balance right. They have to have the right amount of challenge with the right amount of support. Many of you might have seen this, I don't know. This was a really interesting TED Talk. When my friend found out I was doing this, in fact, lots of my friends just laughed their heads off when they said I was doing a computing festival. They're like, what? How have you ended up doing that? You don't know anything about computing, Gemma? And I was like, yeah, no, I don't. But one of my friends sent me this. She said, oh, Gemma, I've just seen this. You need to have a look at it. It's a TED Talk. And it was about giving pupils the opportunity to be brave and actually teaching girls to be brave. You can talk about socialization, you can talk about stereotypes, and they're saying that 2 skills that they need to make society successful was to teach them to be brave and to take risks. To truly innovate, we cannot leave behind half of the population. You need to tell each and every woman to be comfortable with imperfections. This is really important in the industry, well, in society now, with Instagram and filters and Facebook. Everybody's looking for perfection, and it's about trying to teach students, and our students, to fail, to try things out, and to be brave. And that's something really important that we wanted to talk about today.
I think somebody else mentioned in one of the workshops this idea of tinkering, and tinkering with and encouraging our pupils to tinker and to change things and to be creative. We certainly found that tinkering activities where we kind of were pretty unstructured and allowed them to play and to be really creative, we found them a very powerful way of inspiring our students' interest, not just in technology and computing, but also in science as well. I'm going to move straight on to our mini coding festival that Gemma put together. As she said, she has some friends in the UK. When she said to me, I think we can do a festival, I said, okay, that's a great idea. I have 2 festivals in 1 year. I'm really going to enjoy that. But she actually has got some really good connections back here in the UK with Net-a-Porter. So Gemma has had a couple of friends who were female coders who work for Net-a-Porter, and they agreed to come over. We had some parents who are quite high up in the IT industry with Tata. They brought some people to our school as well. And we also work with our community sort of tech, robotics kind of after-school extracurricular kind of group. It was a really fantastic opportunity for the pupils. We engaged, we had our pupils from all through our secondary school as well. They came to our festival and it worked really well. But Gemma, I think you need to talk more about that.
Yeah, so like I said, I wanted to, coming from a design technology background, I wanted to make this engaging for students that are more creative, that wanted to make them see how coding and programming, computer science could actually be used in the fashion and design industries. So like I said, one of my good friends from university works at Net-a-Porter. She's not a coder, but she does work as an IT consultant there. She said, Gemma, I've got some really good female coders. If you are doing this in your school, you have to get them to come and speak to them. And I was like, well, I'm not sure they're going to know what Net-a-Porter is. And I said, don't worry, they'll come and explain. So what they did was that they showed our students about this fashion brand, a really high fashion brand. They showed them how to use the website, how to select the clothing, and it was something that our students could really relate to because it was visual, it was their way of consuming, so they could see how it was engaging for them straight away. And what they did when they came to our festival, they said, well, okay, this is our website, this is how you order things, this is how you select, this is how you make your trends. And then they spoke about the back end of things. So they said, you can be all of those things and work in the fashion industry, but you can do it by being a computer programmer. You can be a software developer. You don't have to be a designer, you don't have to be a buyer or merchandiser. You can get into the fashion industry through computer science. So this was really encouraging for our girls because they'd not seen this side of it. In fact, I hadn't seen this side of it either when I was growing up. So the software developers showed pupils the coding that they had developed at Net-a-Porter, the behind-the-scenes aspect of building of consumer goods possible. This is the program that actually shows you how to select goods, what day that they are delivered, your address, how to put your bank details in. So it's all of the logistical sides of actually consuming a product from the internet. It was really good for the girls to see two young females from the industry to aspire to and to make them realise about the industry and what jobs were actually out there. One of the key messages from our festival was that coding is creative. This is really important. As I developed this myself, teaching art with ICT, it is something that you can use to be creative. Students like to use coding to be creative, and this was something that came across very strongly at our festival. They also said that maths and problem solving is important and it is a key aspect of the future. Now the next thing that we're going to look at is tech talent. So these students, very high ability students that we teach, go to an extracurricular club in our local village, well village, town as you would call it over there. So this is what they were doing at their extracurricular club, and they came to use the festival as an opportunity to show the other students what they had done.
Is that the 2016 version?
Yes, I have a question. Are 3D printing going to be asked in school in the future? And are you going to be working with 3D printing? Or would it be out of date then?
Anushka, I studied along the line of business and art, and I love to model and create things.
So this is my first model. It's a model of a toy for 5 to 6 year olds during Easter, to be used during Easter. And it's called a magical egg. The project I'm working on currently is a plan for a vehicle that's a hybrid of a car, boat, and a plane. Here I've jotted down the pros and cons of each of the vehicles that are going to make a hybrid of, and I'm trying to use the pros and eliminate the cons from the vehicle that will be made at the end of this project. So the plan that I'm going to follow to make this vehicle is first I'm going to 3D design it, the visual product, and then I'm going to print the model of a particular scale to be able to use the model to make the final product. The parts will be 3D printed and then put together to resemble the final product.
Hi, Sebastian from 2036 speaking. Is there my 12-year-old version?
Where could it be used? It could be used in schools, administration, and any other So the functionality is basically you print a laser sensor and then you need to use the coding to read it. So the coding is when the light sensor or access element it changes from background, and depending on which light sensor you use, it will tell you which one you are.
before Lorenzo hacks the call again, why don't you tell us what project you're developing?
Well, I'm developing a project to do with Arduino. That's why I'm showing you this. This is an Arduino board. And this project was made with Java. And it's supposed to help you minimize the errors when plugging your components to the actual Arduino board. My second project is meant to minimize the time I spend on my math homework. It basically does an array for me of different shapes. And it also draws it for demonstrational purposes and for visual effects. This is still in development because it will be a bit more advanced later.
So I think you get the idea of it was a very interactive and very exciting project for us to be doing at school.
Yeah. The other thing that we've been doing is using Python to create artwork. So this is something really recent that we were doing yesterday with Year 9, because when the girls said, when I first taught it, they're like, Miss, if we don't get it, it's lots of lines, it's lots of letters, it's lots of numbers, it's not visual, it's not creative enough. So I looked into ways that we can use Small Basics and Python to actually design their own artwork. So this is where we're currently at the moment, and as you can see, it's developing, it's engaging the students because they see an output straight away. So it's really important. When we had the two developers come over, I asked them about how they felt about being in the industry. And they said, at almost every role and job that you have as a female software developer, you feel the imposter feeling. Even if it's not related to your skills, some male will doubt your capability, and having a confident attitude will help you minimize that. There's lots of things that we could talk about the imposter feeling, but we're not going to have time yet. So what does it feel like for females actually getting to the finishing line? Doing it at school, doing it at university, and actually getting into the industry. Some of our developers said they are proud of speaking at conferences. The positives are flexible working hours, creative and logical work that is always changing. They learn something new every day that is satisfying when they complete a piece of work and see it being used. They said they had no obstacles of it yet and no prejudice that they know of. And they said, in fact, female coders is something that companies and teams are proud of. They always felt that they had equal opportunities and there was never a queue at the women's toilets at busy events. They also said, so you have this feeling of being a unicorn and everybody wants to see you perform and give you the best tools to achieve that. And that when you get there, your opinion will matter. Since you are under the imposter feeling, you most probably will surprise a lot of people with your skills. With opportunities, I think it's a plus for females here because of the perfectionism. So really the message that we want to get across is making sure that females feel confident and all students, giving them the support with the equal amount of challenge, giving them role models, making them see where the jobs apply and how their skills can be used. And it's making sure that we live in a global, connected, information-saturated world. To thrive, our students need to learn in and out of school, in person and online, together and independently. Students need learning experience that meet them where they are, engaged and deeply, let them progress at a pace that meets their individual needs and helps them master the skills for today and tomorrow. I'm going to let Dawn close on her attempt at making a website.
Yes, when Erica taught me how to do a little bit of coding with some of the discovery things that we have done it again, haven't I? The things that we were doing, I actually tweeted online what the website that I'd done with Erica. And immediately Simon Noakes, I don't know if you know Simon Noakes, but he came back straight away and said, oh, great, Dawn, reminds me of the one I had in 1994. Well, ouch, but, you know, I came back with, you know, we all need to start where we are. And I think that that's a very important thing. You know, if I can say this as a head teacher that I learned how to code this year, you know, that's pretty good.